So Joe Biden has declared a U.S. energy emergency. I'm thinking that we're going to see a general mobilization of the Russian military within the next 3 months, and we're likely going to see diesel and gasoline prices approach the $7 to $10 per gallon range. Hi folks, my name is the Canadian Prepper. To prove it to you, you can see I'm still the same guy. No deep fakes, no body doubles just yet. Trying to keep a low profile, trying to keep it gray man. You don't know what the gray man is, that just means keeping it incognito, okay? Trying to match the baseline of whatever culture you're in so that you don't stand out in a crowd. And this is important for me right now because more people are starting to recognize me, and I don't want the Prime Minister and his entourage of censorious gun-toting minions, the only gun-toting minions left in the country, I should add, on my six. All right, so I know the CBC be mad as hell because we taking all their views, you know what I'm saying? But it is what it is, baby. This is the golden age of the alternate news and the YouTube social media talking heads, and you know, we're just gonna ride it until it dies. I'm gonna try to give you guys as much information as I can until the lights get turned off on this whole freak show. All right, so Biden has declared a U.S. energy emergency. Why is this so important? Why is this so relevant? What is this all about? What the hell is going on overseas, and why does it matter? That's what we're going to talk about today, because we ain't seen nothing yet. I regret to inform you that the price of gas here today has officially, drumroll please, hit $2.06 per liter just a few hours ago. Up 5% from what it was yesterday. Probably up 10% from where it was just a little bit last week. And we are going sky high. We're going to the moon. Only we're going to the moon when we don't want to go to the moon. We want to stay on Earth. And I'm looking at my gas tank. It's half full right now, and I'm dreading having to go back there. I don't even want to know what it's going to cost to fill up this gas-guzzling Toyota Tundra monstrosity. As reliable and as great of a SHTF vehicle as it might be, in spite of the fact that it runs on gasoline and not diesel, I'm just not having it right now. I'm looking at these Mini Coopers, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Not a bad idea. Not as embarrassing to be in one of those anymore. Anyways, guys, if the price of diesel goes between $7 to $10 a gallon, we're going to look at where it's going to be chaos. It's going to be absolute chaos. We will see riots in the streets because diesel is tied to everything, especially as we come into harvest season, when all of the big machines, the heavy equipment, construction equipment, semis, trucks, airplanes, they all run on this grade of fuel, okay? And all of society, the real things that we call civilization are built with diesel. And if that diesel price creeps up, you're going to see that reflected in the price of absolutely everything, in particular food. Food is already, we're already on the brink with food. And of course, as food gets more expensive, people start eating more crap. And I was kind of joking about this last week, but it's the absolute truth. And I know somebody who works in a hospital, and they tell me that, there's more people in the hospital now than ever before, likely because of a lot of the poor health style choices that have been made over the past 2 years. As a result of everybody locked down and not taking care of themselves and postponed surgeries and all the rest. And in addition to that, we're likely going to see that the effect of poor diet on people and just consuming, these refined sugars, more and more of them, because you can't afford the actual food. All the more important reason to start growing your own garden. Look, the garden that you grow now, the price of it is skyrocketing. The tomatoes that you can grow, when you actually think about how much you're paying for fresh produce in the store, you are saving hundreds, if not thousands of dollars just by growing your own garden. Anyways, I'm getting a little off topic. The price of diesel is going through the roof. I predict that we're going to see a general Russian mobilization of their military if these medium-range missile systems, which of course they haven't been provided the ammo yet to do long range, but they'll give it to them. It's all about moving the goalposts. It's about incrementally moving the goalposts. So yes, the MLRS rocket systems that the United States, the UK are providing some similar rocket systems. I think they're only getting 12 systems right now, but 12 systems is just the beginning. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg with respect to what they're actually going to get. And these will make a difference when you pair it with all of the other military capability that Ukraine can bring to bear. It's going to make a difference. Is it going to change the ultimate outcome of the war, being that the Russians are likely going to win? Probably not. Probably not, but you never know. And the reason why this is going to be significant is now Europe and Scholz, I believe, was it Scholz who said that we're looking at a war of attrition, a long-haul war of attrition against Russia? If you're looking at, and now if you're saying that openly, if you're saying that this is going to be a long-haul war of attrition against Russia, and you're trying to destroy the Russian economy, at some point Russia is going to have to make a move to get out of that inevitable outcome, okay? And that move very well be targeting these systems as they're coming in the decision-making centers. Putin came out, there was an interview, it's all around the internet. If you haven't been around yet for the last 24, 48 hours, Putin has effectively came out and said, look, we're going to start hitting the decision-making centers. We are going to start targeting these systems prior to them coming into the country, essentially. To the country, I mean Ukraine. And of course, with that, you're going to see a major escalation, which could prompt more involvement with NATO and the U.S., or more commitment of weapons and firearms and things of that matter, which will likely force the general mobilization of the Russian military, which will definitely be a big shock to the markets. I think when the news of that comes out, it's going to be big, and it's going to be the next step downwards in this whole recessionary, depressionary cycle, if you will. Now, what else? Where can we go? Well, there's so many things to talk about today. Now, there's this issue that's going on in the Black Sea with Ukraine having this grain, I think 30 million tons of it. Apparently, Zelensky's saying there's going to be 75 million tons of grain at the ports by fall that needs to be shipped to many countries, many of which are in Africa. There's a new migration crisis. There's been 150,000 refugees just in the last, a few months, I guess you could say. And those numbers are going to ratchet up, and we're going to see record levels if they're not able to get this food crisis under control. So anyways, Zelensky's saying, look, we can't get through the Black Sea because the Russians are blockading it. The Russians are saying, no, that's bullshit. You guys have mined it. You've mined the coast of Odessa, so your ships can't get through there. We're willing to work with Turkey to help you demine the coast. So what they're going to do, supposedly they have this agreement with Turkey where Turkey is potentially going to come in. And I say potentially because lots of what ifs here. A lot of things have to happen for this to actually work out. And it's going to allow Turkey to go in there and help demine the Odessan ports. And Turkey is going to escort these Ukrainian vessels of grain into neutral waters, from which Russia will escort these grain shipments the rest of the way into the whatever it is, that canal that Turkey controls, okay, to get the stuff out. Now, the problem with this is that in this agreement, it all rides on Kiev's commitment to not using it to remilitarize the Odessan port. So this is one of the conditions that the Russians have, which I just simply, I cannot see Kiev right now, while they're in the middle of a war, being able to have the level of diplomacy required to have this flow peacefully. Maybe for a few ships, I just can't see it, especially if a war breaks out in Odessa and they start hitting targets there, or they start, and there's a great potential too now for one of these grain ships to be targeted, for it to get caught in the crossfire, buzzword, false flag, you name it. There's a lot of bad things that can happen, and a lot of ways this situation can escalate. But if that doesn't happen, we will see a global famine, probably unlike anything we've seen in a long, long time. And of course, that is going to have major geopolitical consequences, including mass migration into Europe, which will cause great instability within Europe. It will cause the emergence of very, very nationalistic far-right parties, which are populist movements, which of course could beat the war drum even louder. Okay, and this is it's all connected. This is why when I talk about Biden declaring energy emergency, I go right to Russia, even though I'm not saying that it's the Russians' fault. I mean, the president declared an emergency on Monday, saying national security and quality of life are jeopardized by potential shortfalls in power supplies. He invoked the Defense Production Act, originally part of the industrial mobilization effort in response to the Korean War, to spur domestic production of solar panels and other forms of clean energy to boost power supplies. Okay, I can hear the critics already. They're going to be saying, drill, baby, drill, build more refineries, build more nuclear power plants. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what, the political angle is with this. If he feels that this is the most politically appropriate thing to do, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like at this point in time, if there ever was a reason to drill, baby, drill, this was it, right? But and I'm not, you guys know, I'm a person who advocates for sustainable energy development wherever possible. But in order to push the revolution back a few months or years, possibly, I think you should consider, investing in the types of energy, unfortunately, dead dinosaurs, because I think that's the only thing that is going to get us out of this predicament in the short run. Now, of course, he's pinning it all on climate change and the Russians. But there's a lot more to it than that, as we all know. Now, yes, so it was Jens Stoltenberg who said that the NATO must prepare itself for a long-haul war against the Russians. Because what we see is that this war has now become a war of attrition. So it's very likely that this war is going to persist. It is going to endure. The market fluctuations are going to continue. And this is why I think we could very likely see a general mobilization at some point. Because the Russians, if they feel backed into a corner, and a lot of people don't realize that Putin isn't the most hawkish in the Russian government. There's many more people who want mobilization. In fact, a lot of the TV pundits and the talking heads are saying, look, this is on the trajectory it's on now. There's a very good chance this is going to end in a nuclear incident. Therefore, we should get ahead of it and we should mobilize generally. Like, why aren't we mobilizing the entire military? That's what's on people's minds right now. But, the Russians are trying to be more measured in terms of the options, because they know that once they cross that bridge, you can't go back. So you got to be very careful with the cards you're playing from their perspective. Now, there was this incident, and if you don't think it's escalating right now, if you think that the news is dying down, it's not. You've just gotten used to it, because the complete opposite is true. There's talk about the United States and Russia shutting down their embassies. Just talk at this point, but where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay. Now, a Russian diplomat has also confirmed that Lavrov's plane, Sergei Lavrov, the defense minister of Russia, that his aircraft was denied entry, denied entry into Serbia, but they closed the airspace. I think there was 3 countries that closed their airspace that didn't allow his plane to fly into Serbia. Serbia and Hungary are Russia-friendly countries, and of course, that's not good. That's it. Even in wartime, something like that is considered unprecedented to a degree. So it's an escalation, right? I already talked about our insane gas prices. Okay, so Poland's going to deal with this energy crisis by encouraging people to gather firewood as energy prices soar. You can't make this stuff up. Now, I'm sure this was probably just an off-the-cuff thing that the government suggested. Feel free. We're going to relieve any restrictions on, any environmental restrictions or whatever on the procurement of firewood for the time being, because some people are heating their homes with it or whatever the case might be. And it's not even winter. I mean, it's summer, right? So I'm pretty sure it's warm there. Winter comes, that's when this is going to become valid, when people start heating their homes with wood again, which of course is if you're a believer in the whole carbon thing, is not good, because wood is actually burns much less efficiently when you do it in mass than these other types of fuel. As far as I know, I could be wrong about that. Okay, I know it's not as good to breathe in as much as we romanticize it in the bushcraft community. Wood smoke is, well, I think it's like one of the number one killers in the developing countries, is cooking over an open fire and stuff like that. So anyways, inflation in Poland is now nearing 14%, with fuel prices surging to $1.87 per liter. I cannot sympathize with you, Poland, because right now it's $2.06 a liter here in the city I'm in, and we have a much bigger country. We have much further to drive, but you do admittedly have 3 million Ukrainian refugees. I had a Joe Biden moment there. Ukrainian, Afghanistan, Iraqi. Anyways, you have all those refugees that you have to take care of. So anyways, Poland authorities are reminding citizens that, hey, you can rummage state forests for firewood to heat your homes if you need to. You don't have to freeze to death. It might be, slightly going back a century in terms of our technological development, but hey, desperate times call for desperate measures. We already talked about the potential for the embassies between Russia and the U.S. to be shut down. We talked about Putin making threats that, and of course his right-hand man, Dmitry Medvedev, saying that they will respond, they will retaliate to the decision-making centers, they will go to the source of these weapons, which implies that you are going to see targets in either Poland or wherever the staging area is to deliver these systems from. It's likely, this is probably part of the reason why Belarus has mined its borders between Ukraine and Belarus, because the situation is only intensifying. Russia has also withdrawn from a nuclear Arctic safety program amid analyst concerns. They had this arrangement with Norway, I believe, for the storage and destruction and management of spent nuclear fuel, and they're exiting that. UK, right after Putin said, hey, don't send these MLRS missile systems or we might blow them up, UK decided to, in all its diplomatic glory, decided to say, hey, we're going to send some too, and we might even send some longer range missiles. Now, they have actually denied saying that they're going to send the long range missiles. Depending on which news source you tap, it might say that UK said we're going to send long-range missiles, but they're actually only sending the 80-kilometer variants. They're not sending the long 500-kilometer variants, but that's coming. I mean, if you don't think that that's how this is going to work, then my God, man, you haven't been paying attention. I mean, we went from what were we, Stingers and Javelins to this, essentially, and to tanks, and now they're sending planes and drones, Predator type drones. So it's only a matter of time before we're giving our best stuff to them. And of course that will prompt a massive retaliation, which may see the mobilization of the Russian military, which I think we'll see that will be the impetus for the next leg of the market crash. Putin has vowed to use means of destruction on the West if they continue and they persist. Now, there's a lot of people saying, oh, they're only sending 4 systems or 12 systems, and, this is not going to make a big deal. Well, the Russians think it's a big deal, and that's all that matters. It's one thing for the Western media to say, hey, this is going to change the course of the war, and this is going to help them win, and, to just kind of rile up the military-industrial complex and give everybody a false sense of confidence. But it's another thing altogether when a Russian military expert, Alexei Sankantsev, who's a army veteran, has told the TASS news service, which is a very pro-Russian written, it's a Russian news service. But you have to, this is the thing, guys. I know there's a lot of you out there who are just, you got the blue, yellow avatars and all the rest. If you really want to understand your adversary, you need to go and try to understand your adversary and put yourself in their shoes. That's the best way to do it. And the best way to do it is to consume some of their media. Of all possible armaments supplied by the collective West, the M20 or M270 MLRS multiple launch rocket system and M142 HIMARS are the most dangerous and capable weapons available to the Ukrainian armed forces that can influence combat operations. So while they may be in small numbers right now, Okay, a lot of people are saying, oh, there's only 4 or 12. Well, that's just the first shipment of many, many shipments of these things. And there's a lot of Russian fanboys who I like that they're not just towing the mainstream narrative, but it gets a little too much for even my liking at some points, okay? To my mind, he says, it is vitally necessary to destroy such systems as their stationing places before they move into firing positions, and the Russian aerospace forces are capable of fulfilling this task. In some cases, this task can be fulfilled by Iskander systems, and what's more, without a risk for pilots. So, they're going to try to target these wherever they can before they start launching. And we just seen them attack Kiev recently again. And remember, guys, I said when they start attacking Kiev, you know the situation is, either it's getting serious. Now, they targeted a shipment or a depot that potentially had some tanks and stuff like that. Of course, they didn't show it on Ukrainian media, so we don't know what exactly they hit. They would never show that because it would be a huge morale killer. But that's what the Russians are claiming. So if they're still targeting Kiev, that means that things are not getting better. But I understand what the Ukrainians are trying to do. They're trying to get themselves into a better bargaining situation. You can't go to the negotiation table if you got nothing to negotiate with. That's the whole idea. But they do run the risk of being annihilated. But I don't think it's going to go down that way. I think we're going to see Russian victories continue in the Donbass. But I'm just going to go on intuition because I'm not a military man. I don't know exactly what's going on the ground. But based on what I've been seeing and the rate of progression so far, it would seem that they're going to get to that level, and there's likely going to be, like, once they have taken this Donbass region, they're going to need to get some R&R. They're going to have to, get dug in and fortify those positions. And around that time, the Ukrainians are saying they're going to stage this major counteroffensive in August. Now, some people who are more proficient and well-versed in military speak than me have said that Ukrainians don't have a good knack for staging offensives. It's hard to say, right? I mean, it really is hard to say. When you got the U.S. intelligence and you got U.S. who arguably are better at staging offensives, and I know, not if we're looking at some historical examples, but you know what I mean. You're using NATO weapons, you're using NATO intelligence, and the Ukrainian military who is tried and tested, so anything is possible. So I wouldn't get too high on my horse and rest on my laurels if I was them. Yes. We got the hottest weather of the year is due to jet stream issues is on track for the southwest U.S. This is a big situation. I was looking at the drought monitor of the U.S., and it is absolutely terrifying. That entire place where you grow a lot of your fruits and vegetables is in a state of massive drought. California has already put into place water restrictions, and this is so that they can continue to reroute that water to places where they need to grow food. So the system's all collapsing. I mean, this is why Biden is talking about blackouts this summer and energy crises, because the hydroelectric dams aren't going to be putting out as much power. And this is another thing which is going to contribute to the higher cost of food, because if there's less water, that means you got to get water from somewhere. The cost of water is going to go up. So the cost of water is going up. The cost of diesel is going up. The cost of pesticides is going up. There's going to be a shortfall in fertilizers, pesticides, you name it. The whole system, the whole global system is coming undone at the seams. I regret to inform you. And we got major heat waves, unprecedented heat waves on the way. What else is new? Okay, just a few more stories here before we run out of time. We have the PRC, the People's Republic of China, could starve the U.S. military-industrial complex of ability to build weapons with one move. That's right. They controlled 90% of the world supply of rare earth minerals. And if at some point they decided, hey, you know what? This is like 38%. The U.S. provides 38% of international weapons sales. If we wanted to completely destroy their market and their ability of their military to manufacture new stuff because they're getting in our way on Taiwan, we could. Okay? And to top it all off, Russia has limited the exports of noble gases, which are a key component to making chips. And they're one of the primary miners and distributors of these noble gases. Okay, so Russia accounts for 30% of the 3 noble gases, the main ones that are used in the process of chip manufacturing. So between China and Russia, I mean, these are, one, they're manufacturing powerhouses, but they're also resource extraction powerhouses. You take both of those out of the equation, and the whole globalized house of cards begins to collapse, okay? Ukraine hopes to get submarines from Germany. They want to get fighter jets from the U.S. So, I mean, the war is escalating, guys. There's also... Belarus has warned of a serious confrontation between the army and the Kiev leadership. So you've noticed that Zelensky has been going to the front lines lately, putting himself in, arguably more and more precarious situations. He went to... Did he go by Kherson? I think he went to Kherson. He went to Kharkiv. He went to Donbass. He went to all these places, which is, I mean, I don't know how he's sneaking in there under the radar. Clearly, they have some really good intelligence that is allowing them to do that. But what that is doing is it's emboldening the soldiers who, as far as I know, were quitting, retreating in some places, not in all places, but there were many accounts of people surrendering, retreating, and all these guys look very malnourished, like they've been doing this for months, which of course they have. And especially around the Severodonetsk region, the small city that they're trying to take right now. And he's trying to keep morale up. He's trying to boost morale. It does not look like the situation can possibly end peacefully at this point. I think this is going to be a long, long slog. And I think that we're going to continue to feel the pain here. Now, if things flare up elsewhere, like we're seeing in North Korea right now, like we're seeing between Turkey and northern Syria, between Turkey and there's a whole, I mean, there's like 4 or 5 belligerents in Turkey, including the United States, Russia. They all have interests there, including ISIS, and, just a bunch of people warring it up there. But you have a potential for a war to break out there, which could have far-reaching implications. You have a potential for a war to break out on the Korean Peninsula. You have a potential for a war to break out between, of course, Taiwan and China. So we definitely are entering a war cycle. There's no doubt about that. And of course, whatever happens here in Europe, situation just ain't looking good. They did a tit-for-tat missile test. I believe North Korea launched 8 ballistic missiles, and South Korea followed that up with the Americans, which is something you don't see too often. Usually the Americans are a bit more reserved. They're not kind of flexing like that because they know that they have the superior firepower. But it's strange that they would do that. Maybe they're really trying to send a message. I don't know. It's a different approach anyways. And we also have this situation in Pakistan that nobody's talking about. This Imran Khan is claiming that, there's been this pseudo color revolution, whatever, CIA-backed coup or something against him. And he's threatening to take the country to civil war. This is, of course, a country that has nuclear weapons. And he's saying that the implications would be that they would potentially lose those weapons somehow to the international community, that they potentially would, just descend into chaos, and then it would just be a hotbed for terrorist activity and all the rest. So there's a lot of things flaring up, guys. There's just so much. I mean, there's some people who are like, oh, you're screaming about the sky is falling every day. Hey, you know what? There's plenty of Minecraft. There's plenty of Mr. Beast. There's plenty of that bullshit court case that everybody's been watching for the last 3 months. I don't know why. I don't understand how, with all the stuff that's going on, people can be so transfixed on the story of one couple. Just one couple who is going through some domestic issues, some crazy domestic issues. But, really, and I know some, men's rights activists are going to say, well, yeah, it's cultural, it's very significant, but really, I mean, of all the shit going on right now, it's the least of our problems. So, you know what, go and watch that other stuff, and go and watch those other videos we make. We made 7 blue strip videos, high production videos, last month alone. Usually we make between 8 and 10. Last month was a slow month. I never see those trolls on those videos. I only see them come onto these types of videos and say, the world hasn't ended yet. Never said the world was going to end, genius. I said that things are going to get crazy. And yes, make no mistake that things can start progressing very, very rapidly after a certain point. Like once things are kind of, holding on and together, and then they just kind of come apart. That's what we could see potentially happening in the coming months, in the coming years. So there's a lot of other news. One more story, round it out with this one. Some good news. Boosted Americans seem to be getting more C-19 infections. Fabulous. Apparently they're saying it's because they've been emboldened to go out into public more. That's what they're saying. Okay. So that's why they're catching it more. I seen Russell Brand did a funny take on the Davos with Klaus Schwab talking to the CEO of Pfizer. That was very entertaining. I would recommend you go and check that out if you need a good laugh. But it is what it is, guys. Please support the channel. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. That's all I ask. If you really want to support the channel, go check out CanadianPreparedness.com. We have the highest quality, vetted products for survivalists and preppers that we ship direct. We don't do drop shipping. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Canadian Prepper out.